In just minutes on the noon news, Joe Montana will announce that he is retiring from football. Right now, you are looking live at Justin Herman Plaza in San Francisco, where it will all happen, and we will bring it to you live when it does. In Newark, police think a man they shot and killed this morning is the same man wanted for the death of a Bay Area police officer last week. Plus, a little girl who was missing from the Bay Area has been found. Those stories and a lot more next on the noon news. You are looking live at Justin Herman Plaza in San Francisco, where hundreds, if not thousands, are waiting to watch history in the making as the greatest quarterback ever announces he is retiring. You will see it live next on the noon news.
Now, live, the award-winning KTVU News team and the noon news.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Frank Somerville. Laura is off today, and we begin this noontime, hey, where else? In downtown San Francisco, where there are hundreds, if not thousands, all waiting to see the man many think is the greatest quarterback ever announce that he is retiring from football. Joe Montana is expected to make that announcement in just a couple of minutes. And standing by right now, live at Justin Herman Plaza, is Lloyd LaQuesta. Afternoon, Lloyd.
Well, Frank, the Montana magic works again on a day that started out as sort of dark, cloudy, and possibility of rain. It's now sunny, dry, and a lot of people here, as you said, to celebrate, well, honor Joe Montana. We took our camera into the crowd here at Justin Herman Plaza, and here's what it looks like. Of course, red is the color to wear today, and flags are flying, the 49er flag. The 49er faithful all here, number 16. Thank you, Joe, for his 16 years in the NFL. A lot of trinkets here, a lot of memories, and here's what some of the fans had to say about Joe Montana.
Thanks for the memories, Joe. Thanks for putting us on the map. Before, we were just known for sourdough and cable cars. Now we're known for the Niners and the 4 Super Bowls that you brought us. Thanks again, Joe. We're going to miss you.
We've been season ticket holders for years, and this is what life's all about, being a Joe Montana fan.
I've been admiring Joe ever since he came to San Francisco. He's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Oh, it's a big day for me and the city and Joe, especially for Joe. He's going to retire, and they're going to show him the respect that he really deserves. He gave a lot to the city, and he gave a lot to people personally. Playing hurt, and a lot of magic moments, and I'm here to wish him well.
I'd like to say, Joe, we love you. You're the greatest.
Right now, it's anticipation time here at the Justin Herman Plaza, waiting for Joe Montana's appearance, and that's expected to come perhaps about 10 minutes or so. And joining me right now is Mark Abanza, sports director. And you know, a little bit of trivia. Joe Montana came to San Francisco in 1979. Mark Abanza joined Channel 2 in 1979.
And that's where the coincidence ends right there. I tell you what, not too many football players, or anybody for that matter, could bring out a crowd like this for a noontime event, but I'll tell you what, there aren't too many players like Joe Montana ever was, and especially when you take into consideration he hasn't even played in the Bay Area in a couple of years. But I think the message here is nobody has forgotten that Joe Montana basically put the 49ers on the football map. Some great memories for fans to share with Joe. They wait for him, and while we're all waiting for Joe Montana to make his appearance on the podium, let's take a little trip back and visit with his great accomplishments on the football field, starting with that NFC Championship game against the Dallas Cowboys in 1982.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. Looking, throwing in the end zone.
Here's Montana throwing toward the end zone. Caught on the run by Cooper. He's got it. He's into the end zone. A 49er touchdown. Montana changing things off. Oh, is that smart?
It may not be possible to play the perfect football game, but today in Super Bowl 19, the 49ers may have come as close as any team ever has to doing just that.
Dwight Clark is there. A spectacular catch by Dwight Clark.
The star quarterback is definitely out for the rest of this season. The only question now is Montana finished as a professional football player?
Doctors say that Montana has congenital spinal stenosis. That's a narrowing of the channel within the spine that protects the spinal cord.
You gotta say, the name and reputation of Joe Montana is now approaching mythic proportions. Major back surgery just 8 weeks ago. He's
first down, Montana to Rice again. Montana over the middle to Craig. Montana to Rice. He's in the clear.
At the 10-yard line, 39 seconds remaining. Back to throw, Montana. Steps up, throws. Touchdown, 49ers! Taylor has it for the touchdown. The 49ers have scored.
They have to watch that. Montana going up top to Rice. Touchdown.
Oh, yeah, some of the great moments from Joe Montana's career, and almost in unison as you were watching Joe throw that great touchdown pass in the Super Bowl to John Taylor to bring the 49ers that great come-from-behind victory. Right here in the background over the PA address system, they were playing Lon Simmons and his radio call of that great moment, which Joe actually said was the highlight, the most exciting game that he has ever been involved with. And right now the fans here continue to wait for Joe to make his appearance. And I'll tell you what, as Lloyd mentioned, I came to Channel 2 in 1979, same time as Joe, and I'll always remember the first time I ever went to ask him for an interview. He was standing at the training facility in Redwood City, just off to the side of the field, and I said, Joe, do you have a couple of minutes to do an interview? And he kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, why do you want to interview me? That's the guy you ought to be interviewing. And he pointed out to the #1 quarterback, Steve DeBerg, at the time. And I think that kind of typified the modesty that has consumed Joe's career. He's not a guy who's real full of himself. And now the fans will have their chance to really express their thanks. And like I said before, this is really amazing to get this kind of a turnout when you consider that Joe has not played with the 49ers in a couple of years. So really a special moment, and Joe will have a few words to say along with his former teammates, among them Ronnie Lott, Roger Craig, Keena Turner, Dwight Hicks will be all out here and sharing some of their memories with Joe Montana, who was the ultimate in cool. You know, there were a lot of quarterbacks that probably had more talents physically than Joe, but what he brought to the table could not be measured at all. The intangibles, that ability to stay cool when everybody was falling apart around him, and he could bring victory when it seemed impossible. And we'll get back to more with Joe when he takes the podium here and some of his teammates. In the meantime, from San Francisco, I'm Mark Ibanez, along with Lloyd LaCuesta. We'll be back in just a little while when Joe gets back. Frank, back to you.
All right, Mark, thanks a lot for that. There is, of course, a lot more ahead here in our special coverage of Joe Montana's retirement. And as Mark mentioned, we will go back live to Justin Herman Plaza in just a couple of minutes for some additional coverage of the ceremonies. And Joe Montana himself is scheduled to address his fans. It looks like thousands of them are out there at about 12:15. We will also look back at some of Joe Montana's greatest moments. So stay with us here on the Noon News. Okay, we should be getting set for Joe Montana now in just a couple of minutes to announce that he is retiring. Right now, you are looking live at Justin Herman Plaza. Let's listen in to what's happening right now.
Only 23 seconds to go. Second and goal at the 7 as Taylor and Rice go out to the left. Craig and Rathman in the backfield. No receiver out to the right. It's a double tight end. No, it's a single tight end formation, and Craig goes out to the right.
What you're listening to right now is Joe Starkey, the voice of the Niners. They are playing his voice as he goes through some of the old 49er victories led by Joe Montana. Montana is running, I guess, a couple of minutes late here. He was supposed to make the announcement at about 12:15. Right now, it's about 12:20. We hope that it'll happen momentarily. Of course, Montana on the podium is going to be joined by former coach Bill Walsh and the Niners owner, Eddie DeBartolo. I believe Carmen Policy, the team president, will also be there. And, of course, there will be lots of his former teammates from the 49ers, among them Ronnie Lott. Right now, though, what we are going to do is switch gears and go to a break. We will, of course, bring you the live coverage of Joe Montana when he does announce that he is retiring. Right now, though, here are a couple of commercial messages.
Montana changing things off. Oh, is that smart? Montana, touchdown 49ers. Look for the...
You kind of thought his career would never end, but it looks like we have finally come to that moment, and we want to go live now back to Justin Herman Plaza. There you're looking at Joe Montana as he prepares to announce that he is retiring from professional football. Boy, what more can you say about Joe Montana? 4 Super Bowl victories, 3 Super Bowl MVP awards, only threw 3 interceptions in all of his Super Bowl games that he played in. 4th in touchdown passes during his NFL career, 4th in passing yards, a 117-47 regular season record. You know, Mark, I'm curious, there's so many memories about Joe Montana. What's your favorite memory? You shared one a little bit earlier. Do you have another one?
Well, I think getting a chance to be down on the field back in 1982 at Candlestick Park when the Dallas Cowboys were then at the top of the reign, a pure dynasty in the NFL, and the changing of the guard was about to take place, but little did we know that as Joe led the 49ers down the field for that now great drive, infamous drive if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, but Joe throwing the touchdown pass that a lot of Cowboys will still tell you he was actually trying to throw it away, but our camera crew was right in the end zone where Dwight Clark made that catch, and I was probably about 20-25 feet away from Clark when he made the grab, and I can remember turning to my cameraman and saying, these guys earn every dollar they make because this is major pressure if you take into consideration all the crowd noise and just pure tension. I thought it was a great moment, and I will always look back at that, so far anyway, as the highlight of my career. But I have to tell you, Frank, I am a major Joe Montana fan, and he never threw an interception in the Super Bowl. Never. Not 3. He never threw one.
You know what? I just realized that I misspoke on that. I think it's 3 in all of his playoffs, but you're absolutely right. No interceptions in the Super Bowl. You know, one thing that always struck me about Montana, I was watching an interview once with, I believe it was Matt Millen, and he was saying that during the drive against the Cincinnati Bengals in that Super Bowl with 1:33 left, Montana came into the huddle. They have 80 yards to go, and he says to his players, hey, you guys see up in the stands? Look who's up in the stands. There's John Candy.
Yeah,
I mean, can you believe cool? That is so cool.
That's a great story. Harris Barton said when they were in the huddle getting ready, Joe knew he had to do something to mellow everybody out and get them focused on what they had to do and not think about all the pressure that was on them, having to drive 90 yards. And he said, hey, guys, look there in the tunnel. There, isn't that John Candy? And I think that gives you a pretty good indication of how he's able to make everyone around him laugh and relax a little bit. And Harris said it definitely did the trick. I always thought the greatest line I ever heard with regard to Joe Montana came from Wayne Walker, who said, Joe is as cool as the other side of the pillow. And I think that pretty much sums it up. And Joe Montana, I tell you, so many times we've had the pleasure of watching him lead the team when it looked like it was just going to be impossible. And as I said before, you know, when Joe was coming out of college at Notre Dame, there were probably other quarterbacks who rated higher with the scouts and all of that, and ability to throw the ball farther, harder, and bigger guys, but nobody measures up in the heart department like Joe Montana did, and he just had those incredible intangibles that endeared him to his teammates and, of course, the fans alike. And this is turning into a real San Francisco happening, Frank. As we get deeper into the lunch hour, people are still trying to crowd in here to Justin Herman Plaza, and in the background you may be able to hear them say, Joe, 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 and I hope he does make it up to the podium, because lunch hour is going to end and people are going to actually have to get back to work. Even Joe can't keep people from having to get back to work, all right?
You know, I remember once we had Pablo Morales on Mornings on 2, and one of the things that he was saying is that when you get to the Olympic level, everyone is almost exactly the same physically. The difference between the person who wins the gold medal and the person who wins the silver and the bronze, or the people who don't show, is upstairs. It's the mental aspect of it. And it seems to me that that's what Joe Montana always had, was that mental aspect. You know, he's not a better quarterback per se physically than John Elway or Dan Marino, but mentally, I think he is. Would you agree?
Yeah, and he understood what Bill Walsh was trying to bring to the 49ers with their whole offensive scheme. He had a great grasp of exactly what Bill Walsh wanted to do, and he was actually able to translate the genius of Bill Walsh onto the field, and not just anybody could do that. And I think Joe described it to me once. He had a great analogy. I said, how are you able to drop back to pass, and there are so many decisions that you have to make in just a split second? And he said the best way to describe it would be if you're a driver, you've driven for many years, and you come to a busy intersection with a lot of lanes and the signal lights going and traffic all over the place. It's all kind of second nature to you. You don't think about how to react in traffic, you just do it. And he said, for me, I've been playing football for so long that I just react, and I thought that was a great description as to what Joe looks at it like.
Boy, it sure is. And you know, I was on the field once, and I was standing next to Montana, actually, during game introductions. I was amazed. The guy is just not that big. And I mean, his arms don't look that muscular. He just doesn't look that powerful compared again to an Elway or a Marino, who I think go about 220, 225. And yet, man, he just gets the job done game after game, and he took some real punishing hits over his career.
Yeah, he was kind of sinewy and long and lean and quick in his prime. He slowed down a little bit due to all the injuries. I mean, the guy has zippers all over his body. But I think it just really goes to show that size, physical stature, doesn't really describe what it takes to get the job done. And I think if anybody was able to translate that, it's Joe Montana. And the guy's a great athlete, anything he picks up. I mean, I've seen him play basketball. He could dunk the basketball. I've seen him play a little softball. And from what I understand, he's an outstanding golfer. So he's just blessed with the athletic ability, and you combine that with the innate instincts that he has for the game and the pure joy that he gets out of it and the love that he had for it. It makes for a unique athlete, and I don't think San Francisco has ever seen anything like him naturally on the football field. But let's not forget other guys like Willie Mays. They had a little something going for them too in other sports. But Joe, I think, just really put San Francisco on the football map.
Hey, Montana can actually, Mark, are you kidding me? Montana can dunk? I thought white guys can't jump.
He can slam dunk with the best of them, baby. Just like you, Frank.
Is that right? Yeah, I can't get anywhere near Duncan. Hey, Mark, we'll come back to you in just a little bit. Right now, we want to take a quick commercial break. It looks like we still have a couple of minutes left here before Montana makes his way up to the podium to announce that he is retiring. So hang with us. We'll be back in just a minute for Joe Montana's retirement announcement.
Montana steps up, throws, touchdown, 49ers! Taylor has it for the touchdown. The 49ers have scored.
Before we go back live to Justin Herman Plaza and Joe Montana's retirement announcement, we want to give you the forecast. The skies are clear. It is a beautiful day, but slightly chilly here in the Bay Area. At the moment, the sun is shining all across Northern California with temperatures in the 50s. Currently, it's 56 in SF, 53 in Oakland and San Jose, and 54 in Concord. Later on, forecasters say it will remain sunny and breezy in the Bay Area with the mercury hitting the high 50s to low 60s. On the satellite loop today, you can see that band of cloudiness that brought us some showers yesterday moving east, leaving us under bright, clear skies. Looks like right now we want to head back out. There's Joe Montana on the podium. Well, looks like he just got called off the podium for just a second. But we are certainly getting close. Trying to see if I see anybody else in the stands there. There's Eddie DeBartolo, of course, the owner of the 49ers. Looks like we've got thousands of people. There's Bill Walsh to the left, the man who coached Montana during most of his career. One of the greatest coaches alive, one of the greatest quarterbacks alive, Joe Montana. You know, when you look down the list of accomplishments in Joe Montana's career, it really is something. Sports Illustrated Player of the Year, 1989. NFL Player of the Year, 1990. NFL MVP, both 1989 and 1990. Super Bowl MVP, 1982, 1985, 1989. I mean, what more can you say about the guy? He is just absolutely incredible. Mark, you know, we have a special here tomorrow night looking back on Joe Montana's career. Can you talk to us a little bit about what folks will see?
Yeah, sure, Frank, but I want to shed a little light as to what is actually going on here right now. Joe came to the podium just a couple of minutes ago, and with that great flair for the dramatic, he said, we're going to get things going. But their kids are lost in the crowd right now, and they're waiting for his children, Jennifer and his children, to come to the podium and before they begin the proceedings. So that's the holdup.
Okay.
Fans out here getting a little bit antsy, and it'll start momentarily as you see Eddie D and Joe and Bill Walsh near the podium. And our special tomorrow night will be a great one, 7:30 on Channel 2. We'll have interviews with some of his former teammates like Keena Turner, Roger Craig, and of course Ronnie Lott. But Channel 2, we were also the last people to actually interview Joe one-on-one at his home, and he talks, the most interesting part about the interview, he talks about what he plans to do now that football is behind him on the playing field anyway, and we'll talk to him about his possible future television career, his future as a pilot. You may know that he's been taking flying lessons and all those kind of things tomorrow night, 7:30 on Channel 2, and we'll be joined by many of his former teammates. And everybody's still just kind of wandering around, and I've heard quite a few people say, come on, we got to get back to work at 1 o'clock. So everybody's still milling about, and a few cheers going up, Joe, Joe, Joe. But as of yet, no official announcement from Joe, just to tell us that his kids are trying to make it through the crowd.
Yeah, boy, it's a real who's who up there on the platform. I see John Madden, Mayor Frank Jordan, Eddie DeBartolo. Who are some of the others? Dwight Clark there in the background?
Right, and great to see Dwight out here. There had been some question about that. As you may know, the two had a falling out a few years ago when Joe left the 49ers, and they have since kissed and made up. And Dwight Clark is here, and as you say, a whole herd of luminaries, as Joe, over my right shoulder, seems to be getting ready to turn around and speak at the podium. And boy, I sure hope he has something very important to say, because a lot of people are anxious for him to get on with it.
Hey, Mark, you know, we can certainly tell that it's crowded there, but I mean, what do you figure? It looks like thousands there, huh?
Well, you know, I was here a couple hours before noon, and people were starting to mill in there and trying to get a good spot, and now it's virtually impossible to get into the plaza right now. It's definitely wall-to-wall bodies and elbow to elbow, but now, as we get later into the lunch hour, a few people are trying to squeeze their way out. And but I would say several thousand. I heard on the radio anywhere between 5,000 to 100,000 could show up, depending on the weather and all of that. And quite a few children here. As you know, it's the spring break for a lot of schools in the area, so a lot of kids out to see Joe, and they're having a tough go of it trying to get a bird's eye view with all the adults blocking their view, but making the best of it. And still no Joe Montana, so we just continue to babble on and tell you Joe's stories.
Well, hey,
you know, he made us wait this long to tell us whether he was going to retire. He's milking it right down to the final second.
Well, we can talk Joe forever, I think, because there's so much to talk about with him. What do you think he's gonna do after football? I heard some talk about possibly being hired by one of the networks to do sports. You heard anything about that?
Well, there was a couple of reports that said he was going to sign on with NBC to do the AFC broadcast, and then I heard something more recently that no, Fox, our network, wanted him to do the NFC games, and Joe has, at least through his agent, expressed interest in getting up to the broadcast booth, which should be an interesting transition for him, since he's never been known to be particularly verbose, and he's never had to ad-lib for hours on end waiting for a superstar to take the podium and announce what everybody knows he's going to announce, and that is retirement. So maybe we'll get an indication of just how good he is with a mic once he finally straps it on and gets up there this afternoon.
Yeah, it looks like we're finally getting close. Looks like Bill Walsh is going to start things off.
Here is Bill Walsh, the former coach of Joe Montana and one of his mentors, Bill Walsh.
Well, we're here to celebrate a great football career. And first, I'd like to introduce the people in this front row. We have some of behind them, some of the great 49ers of the past and of the present. But first, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Montana. Next, the president of the Kansas City Chiefs, Carl Peterson. Next, directly behind me, the owner of the World Championship 49ers, Eddie DeBartolo. Next, a native San Franciscan, John Madden. Next, the executive of the year in the National Football League, the president of the 49ers. You've heard all about him, Carmen Policy. Next, Mr. and Mrs. Frank Jordan, mayor of San Francisco. The next man that I'd like to introduce is the finest coach in the game today. In 6 years, he has 2 World Championships, George Seifert. There'll be some other introductions as we go through the day, but let me get started. I've written some notes here because I want to make sure I say this right. We're here to celebrate a career of the greatest football player of all time, a true world's champion, a person who did more than anyone else the most to change the city of San Francisco. In 1981, a city that was fragmented and in distress through some terrible incidents, a city that was in deep distress, people versus people, San Francisco versus the rest of the country. But then came Joe Montana. And Joe brought the entire city together to bring a World Championship for the first time to this city, and brought people from all differences, ethnically, gender differences, material differences, sectional differences, brought us all together to enjoy and be thrilled by his brilliant football, Joe Montana. '81 was the start. From there, Joe has won 3 more World Championships, and his brilliant performances has exhilarated all of us and have helped me purchase my new home.
We love you, Joe!
I want to introduce the greatest football player of our time, most probably of all time, Joe Montana.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I really have to say that it is, over the years, you fans and the crowds in Candlestick have overwhelmed us many times, but this beats it all, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And I have to be honest with you, because I really and truly never thought that this day would ever come where I would saying that word, retirement, but unfortunately it's here. We've had, I forgot to tell you that I was going to try to play basketball for the Chicago Bulls, but figured it wasn't in my best interest. I was a little too short. But I must admit that the one thing about my career, and I've been very fortunate, is the fact that it's been like living a dream for me. I remember growing up, it all started with throwing footballs through a tire on a swing with my father. It went to those dreams of playing in the Super Bowls and in your backyard and throwing touchdown passes and making diving catches in the backyard. And the fortunate thing for me is that all that became a reality at some point or another. And I have these people behind me to thank for it, and you people out there for the supporting all of us. But the unfortunate thing is that my dream, and like most dreams, whether you want to or not, you end up waking up. And this is like the wake-up call for me. It's time for me to move on, call it a day from the NFL, and okay. I know it was hard for me too, but I appreciate it. I'll tell you, I knew the icing on the cake was when I knew that it was the day when my two sons got the best of me in the backyard. And then the girls jumped in on top of them, and I had a hard time getting up from it. No, I'm just kidding, but I really have no regrets. I mean, I look at back on my career, 16 years, the things that we accomplished as a team, the opportunity from Kansas City, Carl Peterson, Lamar Hunt, and Marty Schottenheimer to give me an opportunity to continue my career. There's nothing more that I could ask for from anyone, and I thank all of them. At this point, I do have some thank yous. Number one, as I stated earlier, to all of you for the support through the ups and downs and the flows of this career. As you know, it's crazy. 1 minute you're on the top, next minute you're on the bottom, next minute you're back on top, and we appreciate the support. I need to thank my teammates, even the ones that aren't here, especially the ones back behind me. These guys, Fred Quillen, Steve Bono, John Taylor, Dwight Clark, Roger Craig, Ronnie Bobo Lott, hold on, we got a couple more here. Keena Turner, and over here, Dwight Hicks. I think I got them all. I'm going to kind of go in just any order here. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Mr. Peterson for coming on behalf of the Chiefs, Lamar Hunt, Marty Schottenheimer, and all that for the wonderful 2 years we had in Kansas City. It was truly a pleasure to be able to go from one great organization to another. they took us in wholeheartedly and welcomed us, and we had a good time while we were there. And I thank them from the bottom of our heart, from not only myself, but from my wife and kids. And over here, you've been introduced to one of the men of the hour, George Seifert, and give him my congratulations on a great year. I think it says a lot. He took over in a kind of a tough spot after following someone like Bill Walsh, but he found his way, made it work, and kept this a winning organization, and hopefully for years to come that'll continue. And my friend, Carmen Policy, who I must thank over the years, before he was in the position he is now. It started out as a friendship of ours, and I must thank him on behalf of all those contracts I got. But most of all, thank him for the friendship and the guidance that he's been able to give not only to myself, but to my family over the years when everybody has those times of trouble. I thank him. Who we got here? Oh. And then Mr. Bill Walsh. Who I want to thank for the things he was able to give me coming in as a rookie, and the skills and the discipline that was taught that carried on throughout my career. Those are the things that enabled me to last as long as I have, and have the success that I've been able to achieve with this team. The other thing is that the one thing that I think most of the guys will admit to is that this team always traveled with class and dignity, and started at the very top and was brought on and continued by Bill himself. And that's something that we as a unit have always been proud of, this team. And I thank him for that. And for the real man of the hour, Mr. Edward DeBartolo. Who I think took this team from as low as you possibly could get and took it to the heights that it is now. And he did that with a lot of class and took us from the cellar to first class. But there is one thing that, you know, he made a lot of changes along the way. As we started to win, he kept things going. He started upgrading and making our travel much easier. And I think the guys in return appreciated all the little things that he did, more so, if not as much, as the things that were evident by everyone. He upgraded our hotels. I mean, one year we were in Florida when I first got here, and I think Dwight and I ran across a cockroach that was bigger than Dexter Carter. So. But the things that exemplify this team, the class and dignity, the style, it all comes from the very top. And there are a lot of great owners in this league, but if there's any better, it's tough to see, because this man definitely was a player's owner. If he could have put a uniform on, he would have, except Bronco and Chico wouldn't give him one. So. But I thank him for all the things that he was able to give to me also. There were a lot of times that this was carried on long before, and the friendship that I have acquired with Mr. DeBartolo and his family probably means more to me and my family than anything else that we could have gotten from here. And I look forward not only to his friendship forever, but for these guys, my teammates, and the experiences that we were able to have, the locker room. You know, people keep saying, you know, I look at my kids and I think the kids are telling me, well, I don't want to grow up, you know, I don't want to be a grown-up. And we grown-ups look at the kids and say, well, I wish I could be a kid again. Well, you ask these guys back here, and most of us are still kids. This game has enabled us to stay feeling like you're a kid, playing pranks, especially the cellophane on the toilets. You learn to appreciate those things in a funny way. But those are the times that, as I step away, that are really fresh in my mind, those experiences that I've had with them, the things we've been able to accomplish, and I'll miss them. I'll miss all of you, and I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Now it's time to throw it back to the coach here. Thank you all very much.
Well, we'll move right along. Next, we would like the president and general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, Carl Peterson, to stand. Carl, one of the finest executives in all of football. Carl has come this way to make his remarks and to give his impressions of Joe Montana.
All right, and we are back here, and you see Coach Bill Walsh handing it over to one of the executives, and a very gracious Joe Montana thanking the fans, number one, and of course some of his former teammates, and talking about some of the great memories that he has had with the 49ers over the stretch of his, appropriately enough, 16-year career, and the 49er fans not forgetting him, although a lot of the people are heading back to their jobs and respective places to go. Want to remind you that we will have a special, half-hour special. In fact, tomorrow night, 7:30, we'll be talking in depth with Joe about his future and some of his former teammates. But Frank, I guess you could say right now, Joe's done in San Francisco. Next stop, Canton, Ohio, and the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah, 5 years from today, I'll bet. Okay, thank you very much. Mark Abania is live at Justin Herman Plaza in San Francisco. There you have it, 4 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, no Super Bowl interceptions, 2 NFL MVP awards. The man who made the Niners the team of the 80s, Joe Montana, has announced he's retiring. We'll have a full report on all of this coming up tonight at 10 o'clock. And again, be sure to join us here tomorrow on Channel 2 for a special tribute to Joe Montana. I'm Frank Somerville. We'll see you all later, okay? Bye-bye.
Thought he might be a big factor today, and he surely has been that.
Montana changing things off. Oh, is that smart? Montana, touchdown 49ers. Look for the wide receiver. He was covered well. Looking for Dwight Clark. Saw the opening, pulled it down into the end zone from 6 yards out.
Back to throw Montana. Stepped up, throws. Touchdown!